few more studies here, a few more tasks that I need to do, and I've submitted 13 mock studies. All right, so you log in, you went to our website, let's say you created your you created your information sheet, your consent form, etc., everything that you might need to upload. And that's done. And now you're ready to submit in Cayuse. You go to new study on the top here. And what's cool about Cayuse is that there's multiple ways to do things. So if you want to go straight to studies, you'll also see create new study there as well. Submissions, you won't see it because these are ones that have already been sent in. So the difference between a study is that this is just the shell. This is the shell of your protocol. The submission is actually when it gets sent over to the review committee. So from your dashboard, let's create a new study and let's make a name for it. In this case, I'm going to make a fake study. I want to know college perceptions of online college courses, let's say. I want to know how these virtual platforms have been treating students. Click the check mark. Once we create that, you'll notice you're still able to edit the title because we haven't sent it in yet. You're able to erase this still. It'll generate an IRB number for you. And you're able to put other attachments. This is not exactly where your information sheet or maybe a copy of your questionnaire or survey will go, but just any other emails maybe that are relevant to this study. You go to new submission and you'll get prompted an initial. This is your first go around. Once we've submitted it and it's been approved and everything, you'll see more options here, like a modification or a renewal or a closure report. Those will appear here. Once we create a new initial submission, you'll see a required task section. This is the most important area that you need to look at because these are the prompts that require your attention. You won't be able to progress through the application without addressing all of these required tasks. Okay. So if I go to assign PI, being my first tasks, it'll take me to a web forum where it tells me about Cayuse, tells me to complete my training if applicable. And if you don't, an IRB committee member will prompt you to take that training before proceeding. And then it tells you what you might need to get started. So detailed study information, your research team information, consent forms, recruitment documentation, participant information. Luckily, I prepared, so I have these documents ready to go. So we'll be uploading that in this form. I have read the information above and I'm ready to sign. Once I clicked yes, you may or may not have noticed I had some other tabs here on the left side open up that I can navigate to. And this is going to keep expanding depending on the complexity of your study. So if you're going to collect, let's say, biological samples, you might get some other tabs here related to HIPAA. If you are going to collect identifying information, you might have some extra tabs as well. So be on the lookout for that. But once you've completed a section, you'll see a check mark next to that section. So that's how you know you're able to proceed. So I can click next, or I can just go directly onto these tabs here. So project personnel, as role in researcher, he's going to be faculty. So I select faculty. The principal investigator, this will be me, as in role in researcher. I'm going to select them. In this case, that's us. The primary contact. Now, this could be any staff member, really, as long as the PI is a faculty member. So let's say you're a graduate student and you're part of, and you want to submit a protocol for your thesis or your dissertation. The principal investigator would be your faculty mentor, and then you as a grad student may be the primary contact. So you're the one that might want to initiate changes or submit changes, but overall, it'll be incumbent on the PI to certify all changes and certify the submission process. So in that way, it stays the same. If you want to add any co-PIs or co-principal investigators, you can add them here. There's also some brief descriptions here as to the permissions that they may have. Is the co-PI a student? No. And this is just so we know as a committee if this is part of a thesis or not. Because if it was, you'll get prompted more questions. Is this part of a thesis? Yes, right? But in this case, I'll just put no. Study personnel training documentation. This is where you upload a city certificate, but what's cool about Cayuse is that it'll actually pull it for you based on your account. And if you use your TAMU email address on the cityprogram.org website, which you may be familiar with here. It's also on the first page, on the getting started page. It's linked above here to ensure that you got your city training. You got to use your TAMU or your Dusty email, okay? In order for it to automatically be pulled from this city website. If not, you need to upload some sort of documentation for us to look at. Is there any conflict of interest? No. But if there was, we need to know who and how, but let's say no. So it's all pre-built in. That way we're not asking you more questions that may not be relevant to you. In the old system, we had many questions. So the study sites, since we're doing a research study on TAMU students, I'm just going to put TAMU. And of course, in this particular case, you would need more information, but I'm just putting very brief information for now for demonstration purposes. So TAMU is the study site, let's just say, because we're asking them about their classes. Are the people over 18? They are over 18. But if they were under 18, we need to know more, name of the school district, etc. So you'll be prompted through each part of this if more information is needed. Are there any external sites? No. External collaborators? No. International sites? Not applicable. Project type. We have different options here depending on what the purposes of your submission is. In this case, I'll just go for a research study. And you'll notice we got more prompts on the left-hand side, more sections to fill out since it's a research study. We have a clinical trial, we'll get about the same, 118. We have some less options, but this is only for those hypothetical IRBs. Like let's say you're applying for a sponsored project or some federal funding, you might need some sort of IRB approval beforehand. But a research study is what I'll work on today because more than likely the majority of folks will be submitting this sort of study. The anticipating study date, this needs to be after today because this is just when we're submitting the protocol, but this might be adjusted depending on when the approval date is. But let's just say I want to start this on August the 18th. I think that's the first day of classes in the fall. And I want to extend this until next year. So August the 17th of next year. Is this a funded program? It's not, but if it was, you can search up your funding entity here. And we actually have a database of funders on here. So let's say it's NSF. We can look up NSF, just the acronym, and they'll come out. But if it's internally funded and you have, let's say, a TAMU grant, then you can just search TAMU here for internally funded projects. But we'll put no, and I'll go next. Has a protocol document been issued by a lease site sponsor? For example, industry-sponsored clinical trials often issue official protocol document to every site. Say no. Study background to investigate perceptions of online courses in college students. Obviously, here you would put more information. Be sure to cite any relevant scholarly work that you might be expanding on, etc. Objectives, to gather perceptions. And again, ideally you would have all this, done already at this point and have expansive information on all of this stuff. So you can maybe copy and paste this over. Study design will distribute online survey, let's say, hypothetically speaking. And then you would put the overall design, and there's even some instructions here that you might use. Inclusion criteria, all students enrolled in classes in the academic year 2025 to 2026, let's say. If you have more exclusion criteria, none. Okay. Once that's been answered, as you can see, we have a checkbox. And if we, let's say, forget to put something, you won't have that checkbox and you won't be able to proceed with submitting your protocol. So be sure that every section has a check. Participants in this institution, in this case, it's TAMU. What are we, like 8,000? My sample size maybe needs to be 400, very rough. Any vulnerable populations, none of the above, and then we get our check mark. All right, recruitment process. We need to have any recruitment. So recruitment will be done via email. And there's also some information here, like let's say you're giving extra credit using the SONA system. If you're using student extra credits, if you have any monetary incentives, all that needs to be here. And of course, if you have any flyers, advertisements, telephone scripts, etc., that would go here. Since I'm sending out a email, I do have a recruitment email. So I'm going to add a file. So prompt here, Cayuse demo, and then I have my recruitment email here. Apply, and then it'll be here. Compensation, will they be given compensation? No. But if yes, describe here, and again, reiterate any extra credit or monetary incentives that you may have for your survey. Will the study involve participants that may be FDA regulated? Not this time. Genetic testing? No. But of course, it just asks you to please describe below. Recordings? No. Study procedures? Exactly what they'll be doing. But to save time here, online survey. Other than the investigator, do you have any other relationship? Is it a doctor-patient, a teacher-student, counselor-student? If yes, you'll have to fill out this box here to describe more, but in this case, no, I'm just an independent party, let's say, well, within the institution. Survey will take about 15 minutes to complete. Be sure it's consistent with the information sheet and consent form. Just a nice little reminder. Study instruments. In this case, I have a survey. So I'm going to upload a document here that I have all the survey questions, and you upload that there. I'm answering questions, but I still don't have a check mark. So need to make sure that's done there. Anonymous survey will be in secured cloud storage. Yeah. No identifying information will be gathered. Okay. Data, secure data, encrypted information on cloud storage. These are all hypotheticals. Of course, if you're doing your own study, you probably have better details, more expansive details. Sharing results with subjects, in this case, no. But you could, if you wanted to, share it directly back with them. Use for future research. This is in case you want to leave the door open for future research outside of, the information that's detailed in this protocol. In this case, I'll put no. Some folks put yes, but we need to know how long it's going to be stored, how it's going to be retained. And this is also inclusive to also incorporate studies that might collect any specimens from participants or anything involving human subjects. It's important to know how they will be ethically handled. But in this case, it's just information. So, but yeah, in this case, I'll put no. Now we're done. We got that check mark. Okay, potential risks. No more risks than they will find in ordinary interactions. Let's just say, do not say none though. There's always some sort of risk. Risks are minimal. Potential benefits. Here we could say no. No benefits. Data and safety monitoring. Greater than minimal risk. No. Will deception be used? No. Informed consent. Are waivers or alterations to informed consent? In this case, yes, since it's an anonymous survey, we're not going to be documenting their names or anything for that consent process. Programmed into survey instruments. This is in case, this is because I'm including that consent process within the survey itself. Justification, no more than minimal risk. Or I can use one of these example justifications below. Try to make it easy for you. I think this is the information I included at the end of my information sheet, which I will now attach. Attach file, and I have the info sheet right here. Apply. Does this involve any HIPAA or more than 18 identifiers? No, and now we're good. Once we're at the end, something I think is pretty convenient. If we forgot to attach anything, it gives you that reminder here. So if I forgot to upload my recruitment documents, I can attach them here. Or if I have something else, maybe I have a social media post I forgot to upload and run it by the IRB, I can put it here. Or if there was another survey instrument, or if I want to change it, I could go here, consent form here. And now we're ready to complete submission. But let's say that there's information here that I didn't have at the time and I want to come back to it at a later time. You need to click this save button here on the top right. That way I can log out, log back in, and continue as needed. So I'm going to hit save. So now I can go back to my submission details, and you'll notice it still says unsubmitted. And now I've checked off these required tasks. I can look at my dashboard, look at anything else, look at my studies, and here it'll tell me what my unsubmitted studies are. They won't have any expiration dates or anything. My submissions, it'll show unsubmissions. So I can go back here and I can complete my submission. So if you're a graduate student and you put your faculty member as a PI, let me cancel out of here, and you put your faculty member as a PI, remember, you as a primary contact or a co-PI cannot complete the submission, or you can't certify the submission. It needs to be the PI. So if you need to route it, it will route to the PI. I don't know if you can read that there, but it says send to PI for certification. In this particular case, I am the PI, so it's not going to route anywhere else. Are you sure you want to continue? Because once you complete it and certify it, it goes over to the IRB. Now it'll be prompted here that it's awaiting certification. If you're the primary contact or co-PI, you won't be able to certify, but the PI will get an email letting them know that it's their turn to certify. So now this status is updated. But before we certify, I just want to let you know here, you could just look at your study still, make any changes if necessary. You could export it, PDF of the submission itself. This is in case you're collaborating with somebody and you're like, hey, is this good? And they can't log in for whatever reason, or maybe they don't want to. You can show them all the details of your study here using this export feature.